Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. There's a problem simmering under the surface of the AI boom that nobody wants to say out loud. The tech is evolving faster than founders can keep up with, and the tools we rely on keep regressing back to kindergarten. One month, Perplexity is brilliant. The next, it's recommending Arby's. One day, GPT is your super genius co-pilot. The next, you're bottle feeding it simple math. And just when you think you finally know which LLM to trust, Gemini 3 launches and it resets this entire scoreboard. Wait, I kind of like Arby's. Is that bad? Today's guest has lived inside the chaos and built a business on top of the turbulence. I'm talking to Brennan, the CEO of Infinity Constellation, the world's first AI holding company that's already deployed 10 plus companies, raised 17 million, and pushed multiple ventures past the 1 million ARR in their first year, often with teams of fewer than 5 people. In this episode, you'll learn why tech moat is collapsing and what replaces it, the new math of good headcount versus bad headcount, how to sell outcomes instead of tools, why founder-led distribution is more powerful than ever, and what a true AI-first service business actually looks like in the wild. This conversation is for founders building right now, especially if you're wondering how to keep your edge while AI moves faster than your ability to form an opinion about it. Now let's get into it. But first, if you like conversations that make your neurons sprint, your worldview expand, and your business roadmap catch on fire, then you'll want to subscribe to the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. Every issue gives you unfair advantages before the rest of the world realizes they're possible. If you build, think, experiment, or obsess over AI, this is your new home base. That's the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. If this episode gives you one single new idea, strategy, or existential crisis, please leave a review. It helps more founders discover the show before their competitors do. This episode is sponsored by Kitcaster, the agency that gets founders booked on top podcasts without you touching a spreadsheet, a pitch email, or a cold DM ever again. Now here's the truth. Podcasts are where founders earn trust at scale. A 30-minute conversation builds more authority than 30 days of content, and one great interview can turn into customers, partnerships, investors, hiring pipelines, and real-world momentum you simply cannot buy with ads. Kitcaster handles everything. The research, the outreach, the messaging, the booking, the scheduling, the post-interview follow-through. All you do is show up, talk about what you're building, and watch your distribution compound. If you're a founder ready to grow your audience, sharpen your message, and step into real thought leadership, go to kitcaster.com/application and let their team take it from here. Kitcaster, your story belongs in the world's ears. That's Kitcaster by MoBurst. All right, Brennan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So excited that you're here. You know, I know we're going to have a great conversation. Just to kind of timestamp this for folks, we just had the release of Gemini 3. Have you had a chance to play with it at all?
I literally have it sitting in my to-do task to do tonight.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. You know, I guess it's like resetting all the benchmarks. You know, I spent a couple of hours with it, just kind of, testing it on the Estes benchmarks. And it seems pretty slick, it's so interesting that well, for one, I'm kind of annoyed how many subscriptions I have to LLMs at this point, but you just got to feel around for the best one. Like when you're thinking about advantages that certain LLMs have, certainly Google is really positioned to win this kind of race. If there is a LLM race right now, maybe just to open up the conversation, what are the LLMs you're using and for what right now?
So we use I literally use all of them.
Yeah.
So I actually love Grok because of all the Twitter data. And so socially I use Grok and it has really updated information around news. Gemini, I use within my doc ecosystem for Google Docs and board materials. Because you can drag and drop Google Sheets in there really easy. I use Claude across both personal, I don't know, I really love the product experience of Claude. So I use that as well. And then the one that's dropped off in the last month for me has been Perplexity, but I don't push them out. Yeah, honestly, all the other LLMs have gotten better search functionality.
Yeah.
And and they actually give me, I've noticed that Perplexity's gone more into marketing. And so I'll ask like, where should I stay? And that's like a cool hotel. And it used to give me a really cool response. And now it's giving me like the Hilton or like just something that you could just tell there's like SEO in there. Um, and then, yeah, I'm still using GPT, but if Gemini is coming in and knocking this out, their training data set is just so good across documents, email, and video that I think that they're, and they've got the distribution built in.
Yeah.
I think that they're definitely a very a dangerous incumbent in the space, I guess if you could call them that. And then if you look financially, the price to earnings multiple of Google is probably like much better and more stable than you could get for than OpenAI's valuation. So both of those juxtaposed, I think that's kind of Sam. There was an email leaked from Sam Altman saying like, "Hey, we're in war mode. We got to get after these guys." But I think Sam's quite the entrepreneur, so I don't think anyone's ever out in this race.
Yeah, you can't count them out. It's like I've been looking for. I know there's some products that kind of aggregate, and you can just like kind of toggle through
Mhm.
because it seems like the LLMs to me is like you kind of when I get irritated or frustrated with them, I'll put baby in the corner. And usually that's because it feels like if you're training them on certain data sets or you're training them on certain tasks, I kind of expect a linear evolution. So it's like you got to take them to kindergarten, and if they're in kindergarten, okay, we're going to take a nap, I'm going to give you a snack, and then you're going through primary school, you're in middle school. Once I get kind of like either as an agent or just an LLM kind of program, it's in high school, I'm like, okay, cool, we're here. But when it reversed, and that's kind of what I saw with Perplexity 2 in the last couple of weeks, is it was reverting back to kindergarten. It's like, man, that's so irritating.
I think they're trying to monetize. Like that's why.
Yeah.
Because it used to be really good because they'll give you these really unique takes.
Yeah.
And then the data wasn't updated in OpenAI to give you as good of takes. Now I think between Grok, like all of them sort of have very good access to web data.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, Grok has an unbelievable data set. Google obviously has an unbelievable data set. Everybody else is kind of scraping what they can in real time since everything has kind of been digested. So it's fascinating that like, the currency for these models is always going to be new, fresh content. And of course, podcasts is a big part of that. They're all, transcribing podcasts all the time and everything that's coming out. But the volume and the history that like Grok and Google have obviously is just like such an advantage. I mean, just to the point where it was like, Elon was kind of the butt of a joke for a while for how much he paid for Twitter. Then of course he came out and was like 80% of the traffic is all bots by his own, so it's like, oh my gosh, he overpaid. But then now it's like,
but Reddit kind of messed up doing a deal with OpenAI. So like most of OpenAI's training data was Reddit data allegedly. And Alexis Ohanian was talking the other week being like, man, we shouldn't have done this deal because they could have had their own research lab and studio and did it.
well, not only that, but wasn't it like it was like almost nothing. It was like, I think 60 million or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's nothing, but in comparison, it's, it's interesting.
Here's the thing that I don't think that I didn't really grok, no pun intended, about Elon Musk and XAI is that he has such a competitive advantage with manufacturing and hardware, and compute and data centers are such a key component to speed as well as accuracy on the AI models. I don't know if you've used Super Grok. I use all the highest levels of all the models because I'm always like testing them. Super Grok right now is so fast for like what you get, and just like there's like almost no latency, whereas like OAI you're like chewing it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's going to start to be a competitive advantage in people who can build and launch these data centers in a really fast order. And did you see that there was a XAI was suing a guy that left XAI and apparently took their proprietary like methodology on how to build these data centers and then went to OpenAI. So like that's a whole other like angle behind this thing.
Hilarious. I mean, it seems like the defense would be like, well, how many people did you poach from OpenAI, including Elon, right?
I mean, yeah, it's all, I think it's all circular though. It's like poach and then you poach back, and it goes back into almost like the .coms where they were all like the web browsers were stealing people from each other.
Yeah, I know. Well, now you have like free agency contracts. It's like the NBA. And if you're a senior AI developer,
I went into the wrong. I did econometrics, and I should have studied, went more into mathematics and did advanced AI, and then just rode that out until I could get my $100 million deal.
exactly, where they just keep you on the bench for 100 million because they're like, ah, we don't want to deploy this guy yet. So you're just chilling in
Yeah.
Fiji.
Well, what's crazy is most of these guys, like I think there's a real risk to our educational system in the U.S. because a lot of them are from different like countries,
Yeah.
right? And that have stronger mathematics backgrounds. I don't know how many are products of the U.S. high school math system, but I think not many.
Totally agree. And also you think about the States and, having two kids in high school during COVID, like just the really huge setback that was for, I mean, it's like a 4 year kind of loss,
Yeah.
At least in the States. I'm sure it was probably similar, but I don't think in quite the same way. It's interesting to see, my daughter's a freshman in college and my son's a junior in high school of like how they use these tools. And the problem is I wouldn't go as far as to say cheating. I don't think they would either, but
Mhm.
it's more like the educational system isn't built for this right now. There's obviously so much potential to be able to use these tools to further your education, but it can be very simplified to like, here's the right answers on the test, here's the right answers. So there's not a lot of critical thinking behind it. I think it will catch up and education is going
Yeah.
to change radically like everything else. But right now, these kids are kind of lost in the limbo.
I also think that it's an incentive structure um, design problem for from like decades and decades ago. So there's this really cool industrial art or like industrial product museum in Berlin, and the guy's like from East Berlin, and he compares medical tools and industrial equipment from the Soviet Union compared to the United States. And in the Soviet Union, allegedly, there is not even the concept of an iron lung because only in the US could that have been developed where like so much effort and energy and time went into saving one life versus the technologies and the center was so much more about the whole collective. And I think that's one thing, popping back that this story made me think a lot about our educational system, where I think our incentive system is so much focused on how many students can we advance to the next level,
Right.
not does Brennan understand super advanced calculus? And if he doesn't, how can we like teach him that in the correct way? Like even for me, I had different learning disabilities that I didn't figure out about until I was 30 plus. And if my educational system would have identified that sooner, I might have been doing like algebra and physics and been a lot better at a lot of the stuff. And it took me until I was in my late 20s in my grad program to sort of or early 20s in my grad program to really step in to like Black-Scholes modeling and different financial modeling that I think is really fun. And man, if I could have figured that out at 16, I think I would have, been way more into mathematics.
Interesting. Do you think that with that kind of system, and that makes sense why, China, India, like
Mhm.
excel on the edges of the means in these kind of like high level mathematics, largely because it's kind of how statistics work, right? Like if you're plugging in
Yep.
with like a microscope on certain kids and like really investing in them, so you get the extra on the outside, but then it leaves a lot of people in the middle. Whereas in America,
Yeah.
it's like, to your point, it's like a lot of people in the middle are getting a lot of like liberal arts education, maybe appreciation for a lot of different things, more generalist kind of information, but we lack the like the extremity at the end of the mean, except if you're talking about like sports and things and creative processes.
Mhm.
Do you think in like a system like that, you personally they would have found you, be like, hey, this guy is going to be he's going to be
I
math
think
math champion.
I think I would have been screwed. Actually, like because I was very much a late bloomer because I'm dyslexic but didn't identify that.
Yeah.
I've got chronic anxiety, didn't identify that until later. And so I think in those systems, if anything, they're like not as understanding of those things. And by the way, like I do think liberal arts like philosophies have like some of the highest index of billionaires. Like
Yeah.
Thiel's a philosophy degree. Like a lot of founders I know who do we have a philosophy company that's a plug. We basically digitized all the classics that's open source and then put an AI agent that teaches you the classics over it. And it's called the Library of Alexandria. and the
Cool.
AI is called Virgil. And you could read like Marcus Aurelius and ask it questions about like the context of, his memoirs, and it's a really neat thing. So I think critical learning and focus and emphasis on learning across any subject is really good. I think where there's probably a couple things that our system just is different in. The first is the incentives design, where it's like, how many kids can we get to graduate to the next level?
Yeah.
And that goes all the way through college. Like look at even at Harvard, their average median grade has gone up and up and up. And so like, how is that competitive? And then the other end is when I was in India, I was there with Rotary and the Gates Foundation giving polio vaccinations. And we would go into like classrooms to talk to the kids. And every single one of the kids are like, I want to be a doctor, an engineer, or it was basically like doctor or engineer. And so I think in other cultures, there's just a big emphasis on the parents on certain professions.
Yeah.
Whereas like, if I went into a classroom in the United States, they're probably like, I want to be a singer, or I want to be an entertainer, or I want to be a social media. And I think there are kids and people that want to be a scientist, or, an astronaut, or that type of things. But I think culturally, there's not as much of that in the media, or is not as much pushing in our society for that.
Yeah.
And so I think it just creates different outcomes, because if you're to learn that level of mathematics to become an AI researcher, you have to really get after it and then have a propensity to it. And I think that starts like pretty early.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's something that I could pick up, even though I know pretty advanced statistics. I don't really know if you put one of those advanced mathematics equations in front of me, I have a better shot at reading Chinese.
What's up, everybody? Let me hit you with some math that will blow your mind. A wealth manager using WarmStart.ai grew their assets under management by 8.5 million in 3 months. Their monthly fee, $500. That's a 1,700% return on investment in 3 months. And I get it, another AI tool, another monthly subscription. But here's what makes WarmStart different. It's not trying to find you new people to bug, it's helping you reconnect with people who already know you. As a founder, your biggest asset isn't your product or your website, it's your relationships. But most of us are terrible at nurturing them systematically. WarmStart connects your email, identifies warm contacts, and helps you craft personalized outreach that doesn't sound like a robot wrote it. The best part, you review every message before it goes out. No automation without permission. If you're ready to stop leaving money in your inbox, try WarmStart.ai. Use code AIFF for $50 off your first month, because the ROI on your existing relationships is probably better than any investment you'll make this year. That's WarmStart.ai and use code AIFF. Okay, everyone loves to talk about vision, the pitch, the funding round, but you know what gets zero love? The actual product build. That magical, terrifying phase where nothing works, the docs are out of date, and you've asked your dev team, how's it going, for the 47th time today on Slack. That's where Code Story comes in. It's a podcast for startup founders who know that building the thing is the thing. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes deep with tech leaders who've been through it, shipping real products, surviving messy launches, and figuring out what actually works and when you're on the edge of chaos. If you're building now or ever plan to, you'll want these stories in your earballs. Search Code Story wherever you get your podcasts, or visit codestory.co, because founders talk vision, but builders tell code stories. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Asian countries are, very famous for, collective good before individuality, and if you just look at the cultural milieu in America the last 10 years, it's been very, very focused on individual attributes of each person as being the defining characteristic,
Yeah.
So I guess that's just to say that like America's behind a little bit.
I think like we're a distributed system. So I think we're always behind until we're in front, and we're the great experiment. And so there's some things that we excel at. Like, we're so good at being entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You look at like how many billion-dollar companies have been created in the United States in the last 50 years. We dominate that. I think there's a big reason why AI like really was started here in a huge way, and why a lot of people come from those countries to build here. And I think immigration is incredibly important, especially for, just being the great experiment the United States is. And so, I think that there's a lot of benefits that we have, but I would say super advanced mathematics does not appear to be does not appear to be a strength in this moment.
And not right now, but this is a good bridge to get to what you're doing in AI.
Yeah.
You're doing very, very exciting things. And albeit it sounds like you had perhaps some potential setbacks in school, boy, that hasn't stopped you at all.
No,
So
thank you.
I want to ask about your company because I know it's very novel and it's kind of a new path. So it's described as the first AI holding company. So talk a little bit about Infinity Constellation and what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah. So Infinity, essentially, we created it because we looked at the $6 trillion economy that is the service economy worldwide. And so that's everything from like recruiting companies, design companies like IDEO, Accenture, McKinsey, Deloitte, et cetera. And they all are billion-dollar companies that aren't really building their own tech or accruing tech value. And they really haven't been disrupted in the last 200 years. And so that is the market. Then there's the other end of this, which is AI allows us for the first time ever to really sell to a customer an outcome rather than a tool. And I think even since the dot-coms, we all wanted to buy outcomes from technology, but we sort of were forced to buy tools through SaaS. And now with AI, it's actually sold better as an outcome. And then the third pillar is it doesn't take $100 million to launch a company anymore. I've got 10 companies now under this holding company, and many of them have gotten, like over half have gotten above 1 million ARR in the first year. And they've done that, many of them with less than $1 million of capital. And so that just shows a crazy amount of capital efficiency in the underlying business with AI. So if you believe those three things, like there's a huge market that can be disrupted, customers want to buy outcomes, and now we don't need hundreds of millions of dollars to create those outcomes. You created this, you basically looked at what's the best vehicle to do that with. And I love Berkshire Hathaway. They're super long owners. They went out and bought companies like Geico. They managed them well, and they're all about picking the right CEOs and the right things. And we're the same way, but we create the underlying companies and we find the repeat founder that wants to run them, and we pair them with an applied AI person, and we build it up from the ground up, basically trying to create challenger models to these old world businesses. So instead of like an IDEO, we build Radiance, which is our design agency, or we have Zero Hiring, which is our recruitment agency, or Everest, which offers EA support. And the secret to what we do is we take all the AI models and we build an orchestration layer, but we also put human in loop so that we can sell a full end outcome to all our customers. And most of our customers, like we have some that are a bakery in Arizona, and we have some that are, $500 million reinsurance companies. We have shipping companies. Like it really is, I call it the 80% of the GDP that's not tech. Like we're really selling to traditional businesses that want better services that they haven't been able to have access before. And so our end goal is to keep launching these businesses and chipping away at these, the Roman Empire of professional services.
Love it. It's so incredible. And, the investing in founders and then attaching them to AI developers that can start to like, okay, let's provide an outcome as a service. What is kind of the bridge you got to cross there? Is this something that's intuitive to the founders you're working with? Are they already halfway there? Or, maybe what is kind of like, how do you convert them?
I mean, the first step is, I think we're so trained to try to build SaaS as founders.
Sure.
We focus down on a tool, but you play with a ton of AI, as do I. It's pretty, the tech moat of all these SaaS tools is collapsing.
Yeah.
There was a company I know that built a marketplace, and I had 3 other founders with me, and we all agreed that normal marketplaces of that size took about 2 to 3 years and a team of about 10 to build. This company built it with 1 engineer in 28 days.
Yeah.
And was carrying some of the similar volume. And so like, that's an example I tell with investors, because I'm like, I don't think a lot of us realize that actually the tech layer is no longer defensible in the same way that it once was. And so that's the first thing that I have to really talk to founders about is like, yeah, you want a tech advantage, but that's through a network effect, or that's through a distribution advantage. The tech advantage itself and overbuilding on R&D with tens of millions of dollars before you sell to a client is old world, and that just doesn't work. The second thing is, I think a lot of founders, we pick founders that have a propensity to sell, but you have to also be really comfortable in our line of work of managing humans and managing technology. And so those two together have to play nice, and you have to be able to manage it. And when I start talking to founders, It's essentially like, do you want to build an AI? Yeah. And wouldn't you like to have a cash flowing business that you could expand and that you're pound for pound more efficient than $1 billion incumbent? So most startups fail because they don't find product market fit. Then the next reason they fail is the co-founders. So I know a design agency has product market fit. It's actually not incredibly hard to get product market fit in services. It's hard to execute the services. And that's where we really come in as the natural co-founder with the founder.
Incredible. There's and I like how you're making specific mention of managing technology and people. There has been there was talk of like, hey, we're going to see our first 10-man billion or unicorn. We're going to see our first 5-person unicorn. We're going to see a 1-person unicorn, where the weight of that, just I think probably for a lot of founders is there's like a brewing anxiety of like, I have too many people, I need to minimize people. But really at the end of the day, like, you're going to have to rely on on people to be on your side, if for nothing else, because the robots just have a very, shiny shoulder to cry on. It just doesn't feel good. So how do you like to balance, or when you're thinking about like how to balance technology and people, founders that do it well, what do you look for?
Yeah, I think that there's bad headcount and good headcount.
Mm-hmm.
Bad headcount, and this happens a lot in, like, let's call it pre-2023 companies, where you go raise $100 million round, and that would mostly go to headcount.
Yeah.
And you'd be hiring like content marketing people and whatever. And like, and I remember at one point in time, funds were diligencing you on, could Ryan even hire 100 people right now? Like, do they know that many people in network? And that was a part of diligence. I think that that's bad headcount, because it's really hard to raise 100 million and hurdle that to where a fund needs that to be hurdled. And so if you're out there, you're like, I don't know how to sell, but I'm going to hire a salesperson. That's like bad headcount. Or you're like, I should do growth, so I'm going to hire a head of growth. Doesn't make sense. Or even worse, my investor just doubled my round. I'm going to go hire double the people I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Good headcount, I think, I call it kind of like the elevator operator. So like the elevator worked, but we had elevator operators for a long time. Why? Because there's a trust curve. So even if you believe in AGI, and I was listening to a really great podcast the other day, where there was an AI safety expert on there, and they were talking about what was going to happen by 2026 and 2036 and all the stuff with AI. And they were, they're saying, okay, at this point where like a bunch of us aren't going to have jobs and all of this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like maybe from a technical perspective, we can keep increasing compute and energy to get this thing smarter and smarter and smarter, and the software gets more efficient. But I think there's also this component of like, when is your mom going to go and be like, I completely trust this AI with all my banking info, or I completely trust this AI to drive my car? And I think the tech will be there a lot sooner than my mom will trust those businesses. And that's just like any of us running our companies, is like, you're going to want that elevator operator for a long time. Right now, we're seeing the elevator operators do about 30% of the work, sometimes 10% of the work, but generally that's where they're at. But we're seeing that exponentially decrease. But our end customers still want that really great designer. They still want that amazing EA. Like, our EA business is not a tech-only EA business with some people in the Philippines. It's like actually the best in class EAs that we build an Iron Man suit of AI around to give you a great product. And so our product is placing that amazing EA with the right technology to deliver something to you. And so I think when there's the best humans involved with the best tech, that's the right headcount. When I think it's, hey, let me just add and double my headcount size so I can like get to the next fundraising round, like that's really risky in this environment, because most of those jobs, like, do you need a content marketer anymore? Do you need like junior accountants anymore? Like, if you're going out and trying to build an old business pre-2023, I think you're going to have a hard time in the market.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what are they calling it? Seed strapping now, where, it used to be, I raised a $10 million seed. I got to spend that in 18 months. That way I can raise my $25 million round, so like there was, I suppose that was the correction, after the big, spike in hiring during COVID, is that companies were like, actually, we were kind of bloated, honestly. And so they all kind of pared back, and now we're starting to see that rebound now.
But I'm still seeing this though. Like, I'm seeing people raise like $60 million rounds or $50 million rounds for like companies that are like, we're AI this or that. And I'm like, but then they're like posting all these roles online that the AI is supposed to do. And I'm like, I thought you didn't have forward deployed engineers. And then they're like hiring forward deployed engineers. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting to me. So like that's why for me at Infinity, one of my key things is headcount kills. Because if I am promising my end customers AI first, we need to be AI first. And then I need to make that promise for investors. And I think investors are going to start getting really savvy to this in the next like 6 to 12 months, because I just don't think that old playbook works.
Yeah. Well, it's like a whole new playbook is emerging, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
Sam Altman talks about that. Like, this is the time for creators and idea people. And, you know, for founders, you know, the listeners of this show, you know, it does become like, okay, if my technology isn't defensible, what is? Well, it's me, you know, and it's like ultimately
Yes.
like the personal distribution you have and your reputation becomes more powerful than ever.
Or if you watch The Office, Michael Scott's like, I could create 5 Michael Scott paper companies. I can create the next Michael Scott paper company. And that's always a joke I have with my wife, who's a founder too. And I'm like, I can create another bread and paper company. Like, that's fine. And I think if we can get to a point where I'm even talking to some founders about building autonomous CEOs, where now think about this, like you could be a founder managing a portfolio of autonomous CEOs and thinking about and launching ideas and curating ideas. And so for me, I'm very optimistic about the future, because as long as you can see an angle or see a problem and help design a solution to solve it, there's going to be better and better ways to execute and manage that to degrees that we've never had before in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, as fast as things are getting faster, you know, there's a lot of friction and there's a lot of things slowing it down. So, you know, all the anxiety about like, oh, you know, AI is not going to take your jobs. Somebody who knows AI is going to take your jobs, which just means that they can go through like 17 points of two-factor authentication to get the right apps connected, just so that they can create an agent to talk to the other agent. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know if I've ever been more frustrated with tools right now. You know, where
Yeah.
go ahead, Sam.
I mean, I think that I share the same sentiment, but I think we need to have perspective on how early it is in the game.
Sure.
And if like I was a little young, I still got my AOL CDs and got online and was using the internet then. But like the internet now is so much different than the internet then, but the promise stayed the same.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like think about APIs and all of that. And now we're just in this really early inning. And I think where we're going to get is really a different user experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're still building in some ways, even as entrepreneurs and builders in AI, we're building with an old user experience, where in the future, I love watching like Levels on Twitter, like Vibe Code, or, you know, I think he was like building a video game and I was like, this is incredible. And I think that like, we're kind of got to get to that point where I'll just be able to be like at the gym and be like, hey, give me like Minecraft, but with some guns, like that sounds cool. And then it'll be like, and do it. And so I think the UX is actually changing. So like where we're frustrated, I aspire that like the underlying UX is going to shift. And my general sentiment is like, yeah, I feel the same way. but the thing that I feel that I'm more scared about is, let's say these things keep getting really smarter at an exponential rate. My total aggregate knowledge, like let's say I'm 100% good at Python, you know, like, or I 100% know cloud computing, or I know mobile app development. That the evolution of those underlying technologies is like something we can comprehend. Now think about it, it's like if all the models themselves start driving new innovation, and what's happening now is we have all these labs all over the world that are launching new frameworks, new models. I just heard of a new one in China I need to check out. I don't know if you heard about like Kimi, like KIMI, but like I need to check that out. And now I'm like, okay, my gross percentage knowledge of like what is most effective in AI is decreased, because until I go and like figure that thing out. And so what's going to happen is I think exponentially that will just keep going down. And so like we kind of like on a percent total, like know less and less.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know, and I want to ask you about UI too, UI UX.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing a lot of products, people are demoing stuff, you're in the thick of it. I have this intuition right now for AI products that like typing sucks. I don't want to type. I want one button to solve my problem, whatever it may be. And I just want the AI to run in the background like magic. I don't want it to slap me in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are you seeing that's like super effective and maybe kind of like great for go to market, just great for getting like the users just hooked immediately as far as UI goes?
So one of my companies, I will say which one just so I can go more detail. They're targeting mid-market businesses that don't really have full um, like dev teams, but they want access to AI and they want access to their data and knowledge. And the primary medium that the CEOs and the boards of these companies, and these are like pretty big businesses, is phone. So they'll call it up and it'll be like, "Hi, I'm Ryan. I am your CRO, your virtual CRO. What would you like to know?" And it's like, "Oh, well, like, hey Ryan, like tell me about like what are some deals in the pipeline?" And it's like, "Okay, we have Burger King, Taco Bell, and McDonald's in the pipeline. And by the way, like, okay, is there any problems? Oh yeah, Taco Bell like didn't sign its agreement. The team's having trouble with it. Oh, that sounds bad. Yeah, but like the team looks like they're on it because they just did this, this, and this. And like we're seeing people interact that way,
Yeah.
like you would almost with like an actual employee. And that is what the thesis of one of our companies is like we're actually targeting a whole different UX layer because we actually think like being on the computer and being on your mobile phone is probably an outdated modal
Yeah.
to some degree. And so like that's one area of UX that I've seen that I'm seeing a lot of traction with. And then for me personally, um, I find myself like vibe coding over audio, or not vibe coding, but like vibe prompting
Totally.
over audio to like Grok and everybody else because it's like I'm like, okay, this is that, this doesn't quite work, or like change this, change that.
I agree. In voice, I kind of toggle back and forth because usually I'm kind of embarrassed about what I'm like doing online. Not that it's like salacious or anything, but it's usually
Yeah.
pretty weird, like how much is what was I looking up? Where can I buy 5 gallons of porcupine quills? You know what I mean? So like, it's not something you want to say out loud necessarily. Be like, what the heck are you doing? Be like, I don't want to explain it, but so I'm really curious too, like how, devices and things will start to be able to kind of hack short codes. I just feel like
Yeah.
there's something better than typing flat into a glowing rectangle. And like, chat obviously was like the way to use LLMs. I mean, obviously, because
Yeah.
OpenAI nailed it. But as it moves forward, it's like, okay, I can talk to it. Those are great. We've had several people that are utilizing kind of voice AI agents. We had, Vapi
Yeah.
was on the show, and so like that really works, especially when it's like a method that you're accustomed to, which
Yeah.
is like using the phone or being on Slack or like all the
Have you
note
seen what
takes.
have you seen what like Zuck was on a podcast or doing an interview and he had the new Ray-Bans on, but they have a neural basically like a neural strap and you can like text like that.
Yeah,
Um and I like actually Ray-Bans don't look good on me, so it's like I wasn't planning on getting them, but I saw that and I was like, okay, I want to get that because it's like I could just be sitting here being
yeah,
like I think that could be a very like interesting modality of like UI UX. And I mean I think a lot of people in the ultra hype circles are going to be like, okay, you're going to get to a point you're going to have like some sort of interface that's just like you're to think it and it's going to go. And I'm like, that'd be cool, but I think more practically voice or that type of that type of thing.
yeah, exactly. Well, the inner Estes voice needs to be tempered by what I'm actually signaling it to do. I go completely
Yeah,
nuts. Would like order like a bag of spears or something weird, or
yeah,
like 10 pounds of marbles, and be like, brain, you let me down again. You betrayed me. Of course, we really want all these marbles, but what are you going to do with these? Yeah, it's very
yeah.
interesting. So,
I'm more curious about like where you can start to work as UX changes. Like we're so like think about like 10, 20 years ago, we were so into like cubicles and like at the office and whatever. And then like COVID happened and now we're like more Zoom culture at home and we're hybrid at home. And then I think like the next wave will be, I imagine if you didn't need this desk or computer more than like once a week, you might be able to just like be out with your child or like at the gym doing what you need to do or like on a walk, meditating and writing a memo, you know?
that, well, and that's kind of the promise of these agent swarms, right? Is
Yeah.
the human in the loop becomes less and less like prescient, and like it also because as maybe the best LLMs we got now are in high school and they still regress back to kindergarten, but once they're in college and once they got their PhDs and once they're definitely way smarter than me, and I've got 100 of them, at my fingertips, and they're preemptively understanding what the outcomes I'm going to want are. That you get to more and more solutions like that, where you're kind of just like you're in science fiction land, But it's really interesting because right now that's being defined, of like what are people willing to do, and like how can you control it? Not even the internet, but like AI in a way that like is maybe more conducive ergonomically to your point. I mean, I think that like as like kind of pastoral apes, what we should be doing is probably walking about 5 or 6 miles a day and just kind of laying around,
Yep.
you know?
I mean, I think where our highest value too is think of the network effect of your in-person network. So that's like another company we have.
Cool.
But like it's another thesis that I'm into, which essentially is like I'm focused on expanding my personal network. So just
Yeah.
like social media for your private life, there's nothing that like expands into your professional network. 'Cause like LinkedIn actually, if anything, like erodes that because it's like all this like not great stuff on there. And so for me, I think this time will open up like you and I meeting and talking about stuff, or like
Yeah.
us getting a coffee or having dinner, or like that's where the creativity is going to happen, and that's where there's going to be this huge network effect. And so I think that more in person and more connectivity is actually like human to human connectivity is going to get more and more important.
I totally agree. I think that actually like I mean, we are communal apes, we should be kind of
Yeah.
like picking bugs off each other and wrestling a little bit and stuff,
Yeah.
So for the best, to bring out the best in what we're capable of from a production, that just makes humans happier, you know?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm very interested in that too. I built a career in like, founder-led marketing because, one, I'm adamant that like if you're really a founder CEO, you have to put the company on your back. Otherwise, you should give that title to somebody else. But I
Hmm.
also think that like holistically, it's best for you, And
By the way, as a fun fact to that, every single one of our companies mirrors sort of like we saw what was happening with Alex Karp and Palantir. And Alex Karp, if your listeners don't know, he handles 80% of Palantir's deals still. Like used to get beat up for that as a founder, being like, oh, you don't have this big giant sales team that's doing the thing. We're seeing across all of our companies, it's almost the exact same thing with AI, is that instead of getting and expanding into a big sales team, founder-led sales can go like much further down the line. And
yeah.
so I wanted to like, as you were mentioning that, it just got me being like, yeah, like that it would make sense too from the connectivity perspective of that getting more important.
So cool. Okay. I love what you're doing. I'm so interested in this. For all the founders that are listening, let's say that they have an idea, or let's say even better yet, they're exiting a company. They've got 6 ideas. What's a good entry
Perfect.
point to come speak with your team? What does the process look like to becoming involved? Like, what does that look like onboarding?
Basically, either hit me up on Twitter or email me or go to our site. We have an open general founder role that we're always looking for, and then we also have specific companies we're looking to find founders for that we have like strong theses on. And then essentially, like it starts with just a blank page, and it's like, okay, Ryan, write the memo. It's like I'm invested in 10 or 20 of these. Like you're going to be the one behind it. Write the memo, and then we start seeing how we work together. And I help write that memo. Francis Pedraza, who's my co-founder and our chairman, he helps write that. Like he bounces that off of you as well, and then from there, like you meet the other CEOs. They do the same process, and for us, like just like you're talking a lot about the communal apes. Like being an entrepreneur, like building together rather than building separate is also powerful. And so, like our other CEOs will meet with you, and you'll get ideas from them, their businesses. You'll figure out if our culture works for you, and then ultimately it goes to my board, who we have our own IC of sorts, but we started companies from meeting people. Like it usually takes about 60 to 90 days for both sides to get comfortable and like learn about it, but we've done it faster. And then there's some have gone longer, but that's how to get in touch with us. And we're always loving to like meet founders.
Yeah, great. And as far as like, what are kind of attributes that maybe thread the founders all together that makes them kind of like infinity stock?
I actually, they're all very different. Like we have technical founders I love. I have sales oriented founders. I have design, like more design oriented founders. I have remote. I have in person. But really, like we're we're all we're all willing to be wrong. So we're heavily Socratic, even at the board level. We're very scrappy.
Yeah.
So our first move isn't to come in and burn through 10 million bucks. Our first move is to go in and get a customer, figure out the problem and build some cool technology. And then, like all of us, like to have a lot of fun. And so, for us, like being an entrepreneur is fun, and we like playing the game together. And so people who, it's for us, entrepreneurship is a multiplayer game, not a solo game.
So
Yeah.
somebody else gets to pick up controller number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Play some 8-on-8 Halo back in the day.
Like that's what it feels
that's
like.
Infinity right there. Yeah. I mean, that's the move. But I didn't realize this until we made Infinity. But I was like, man, like multiplayer Halo, like single player Halo is fun, and you could like speed run it. But multiplayer Halo, like people driving a Warthog, shooting missiles, like this is gonna get fun. And we're basically doubling the size of the portfolio. And our biggest rate limiting factor is amazing people who can come build with us. So that's why like I love meeting people like you, Ryan, because you have such a good community around you that I can get the word out there to be like, talk to me about your idea. You can also have no idea. Like I actually love it when people have no idea. They're just like, wait, the services thing plus AI sounds sick. Let's go talk. That's the best, actually.
I totally agree. Well, and founders are, I don't know, it was an easy transition for me because I came from the music business and making music and things like that. And that same kind of spark of creativity exists with the founder community. And now more than ever, it's like you're really rewarded for out of the box thinking and for maybe being a little philosophical, maybe, betting on some like true core values, and just being like, hey man, I mean, I spent all weekend thinking about my grandpa, just a little bit anecdotal about me.
Yeah.
And just what an absolutely remarkable man he was. He was a major general in the Marine Corps.
Cool.
And he looked like the prototypical Marine. Tall, handsome, you could shave with his jawline. He was that guy, but he was also just when you spoke to him, he made you feel like you're the most important person on planet Earth. He was just incredible. And so I really was just focusing in on like, how can I bring that energy to people? Because I love that feeling when you build somebody up, you build up your team and something remarkable happens. It's a magical moment that AI can't reproduce yet. But maybe you can. So getting off target. But so
now I want to ask all these questions about, I love military history. So now I want to ask all these questions about your grandfather, but
he's an incredible man. Rest in peace. Love him to death. But I want to talk about you. This is about you. I know you have your own podcast, which please plug.
Yeah. Come check out Not Another Pod. That's my podcast. And we essentially go through, it's all these epic founders and how they've built companies, because I think so you'll tell the upside of the story of the numbers and the cool products and all the stuff, but we kind of get into the founder therapy of it. And so I've had some really cool guests on. We just launched this season, so come check it out. It's on all the platforms. notanotherpodcast.co.
Cool. And you're working with Jake Hurwitz on that, isn't that right?
Yeah.
This
Jake's my producer.
Yeah. And it's interesting synergy because I heard you on Code Story, and Noah's a buddy of mine, and Jake Hurwitz is a buddy of mine from another world. It's like all the worlds converging. But I wanted to mention your podcast largely because you're on a podcast to talk. And what happens is when you get a podcast, you don't end up talking. You just interview anybody. So I want to make sure you have your chance.
That's why I was excited to be on here. I was like, I've been interviewing.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So founder comes on board. They're nestled in with the community. They build a product. We're feeling good about it. How are you bringing products to market now? What does go to market look like for your portfolio at this point?
I mean, it really is founder dependent. So
Yeah.
like we hire CEOs, not general managers. So like, that's where I'm like, okay, like if you were my CEO, I'd be like, how do you do it? And that's part of your memo. But generally speaking, most of our companies, they go and they find an existing client. And so we typically start with clients that are in tough spots. So rather than going to like super high end hiring, we'll go to someone in the retail space that's having a hard time to hire during the holidays. And then we can go and be like, actually, we can use AI and we'll give you a better price, or we'll give you a better quality. I like quality better than price, but we'll give you a better quality and speed than you're getting from your existing recruiting agency. Why don't you give us a shot? And we'll have you be a design partner. So we were able to close a really large retail chain to do that staffing for them. And now that's expanded, that contract's expanded really far. And so like, usually that's what we do. Or like Labyrinth, our permitting approval company, It actually was founded by Stuart Lacey, and he's an incredible repeat founder. But his first customer was Deep Fission, a small format nuclear power reactor, and it's because he could build an AI process platform to help manage their permitting and be aligned with them on the outcome rather than bill them hours and hours and hours like a normal consultant would. And so um, our top founders and actually all of our companies go and find design partners first. And then essentially that in services, you want to go get the data as fast as you can, because then you get the data, you get the money, you get the cash flow, and then you can start iterating and building. The biggest mistake I see people make is like, oh, I raised money, or like my whole product is raising money. And then I've got the money. So now I have to build the perfect software. And then someday I'll close some clients and make some money on the thing. And I think in this world, you'll just get blown by because so many people are going really fast.
Yeah, that does seem like kind of the real performance enhancing drug, so to speak, is having the right design partner. So when you have founders with experience, a lot of times they're bringing those relationships aboard with them. Where they're like, hey, we have these 2-3 enterprise clients that are willing to come on board as design partners because we can 2x, 3x the value at the same price potentially. And then so once you're ready to throw the switch, boom, you got 2 or 3 big clients. You got the logos fresh on the website. That seems to be really helpful. Are folks having any success kind of just cold calling design partners?
I would say so. Cold calling ever since the last iOS shipment, cold calling is like basically dead. Like I've like literally turned it off on my phone, and I used to be like a beast of a cold caller.
How did you do that? How do I turn it off?
So there's a new setting. So update to the latest setting in Apple. And then there is a new like call screening setting where they'll have like an AI basically screen your call for you if it's not in your phone book.
Really?
And then it transcribes to you. It'll be like, I'm Ryan, I'm calling about the pot, and I can be like, oh, it's Ryan, pick up.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely trying that out.
Even if my phone was like almost unusable, because like once you start doing all this stuff, it's just everyone starts, and I'm like, I scrub myself from everything. So step one, that's like cold calling. I love the grit of cold calling and Glenn Ross kind of situations, but I think that's basically like DOA. The next is like outbound email. People are still doing that a ton, but essentially all the big email companies are using AI now to screen and do spam. So response rates now have dropped by 50% from where they were a couple of years ago. I think they're like 1.5% now, and they used to be like 3%. Mm-hmm. And so that's also a really tough channel. SEO is also incredibly tough. And so where we're seeing traction in this while of being on this podcast and find founders is telling our story in real authentic ways. Short form video, that works. Long form podcasts, actually amazing. We do events, and we do interactive events where we bring our engineers and build people real things in real life. So like we sponsor Abundance 360, which is Peter Diamandis's conference, and we'll build AI agents there. And that's what we're doing this year. And then we also, one of our companies, Ascendancy, basically comes in and maps your whole business network and then finds you investors, people to recruit, and sales leads, essentially, from warm introductions from the whole network. Cool. So like we essentially built a network effect company that goes and drives leads and drives like, and we built a real community behind it where we'll do dinners and all sorts of other things. But that's typically how we go and find other clients. And what I'll also say is like, it doesn't have to just be the repeat founder that knows the 3 enterprises and like, that's how you're in. Like as long as you're empathetic and you're willing to get yourself out there and build really good product, I've seen like a lot of people close really great design clients without an existing relationship. You just have to like meet people where they're at and like be authentic and not be scammy, you know? And it's like hard. Like, I don't know. I feel like right now everybody with AI is like leaning into the scammy thing. Yeah. Like scammy emails, scammy calls. It's like, how about just like not doing that?
Yeah, totally. I was like, man, can I just get a AI avatar to do something about this face? Like, nah, I'm stuck with it. I'm still stuck with it. So here we go.
You got a beautiful face, Ryan.
You're too sweet. Okay. We got a couple minutes left here. We got time for the lightning round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm set.
Okay. So you're creating AI services and you're challenging the massive iconic tech brands out there, which is amazing. What are some services you come up against that maybe shouldn't you be using AI at all?
Oof. I mean, your doctor. Like I think there's a lot of good co-pilot stuff around this stuff, but I think like you still want like your doctor because AI should not replace your doctor.
They're working on
Um,
that.
I
You think the intuition and the experience of a doctor still like trumps the
because they
calculations of it?
because they can see like I think that's like a perfect co-pilot example. Um, but like yeah, and there's definitely like our hospital network has an AI co-pilot that they can ask for knowledge work, but I think I'm still at a point where I want like a real doctor, not like a full AI doctor.
Yeah,
I would say litigation law, so not corporate law, but like when you're actually in a lawsuit, you want like a real lawyer from judgment perspective.
yeah,
Um, and so think like one step down, like let's say you got in a like lawsuit, you want like a real lawyer like litigating that and like consulting with you on that. Um, I think really like the way to process map this since we're in the lightning round is anything that is high trust, judgment based, um, that's more experience reinforced. That's typically where you want the human to be. And then obviously, like in my world, you augment those with AI.
totally. Love it. Okay. If you were to join Infinity as a founder, do you have an
Yeah.
idea knocking around that you'd like to bring to Infinity as an operator?
Oh, we're working on an AI general counsel company.
Cool.
Um, and so I really want an awesome founder from the legal space to come build that. I also would love to do something. My last business was in the insurance space. I would love to do something in the insurance space because I think there's a lot of companies ripe for disruption in the brokerage area
Yeah.
of that. And then I love technical founders. So um, information security and like device hardening. I think that's incredibly important, and I think it's somewhat of a tech product, but it's also a managed service. And so any and all technical founders in any space I like love because I think not enough tech services get the credit for it. So like
Great.
one of our new companies is called Sanctum, and it's just launching, and it's an IT services company that's predominantly using AI and people to manage your IT.
Incredible. Well, let's just put the
Yeah.
APB out. Like you're looking for founders in specific areas. What, any other categories that would be helpful for you?
Um, Supply chain. We have a call to action on our site that's coming out, so everyone should keep eyes out for that when this podcast launch. But supply chain and finance, um, different aspects of finance and accounting. Um, I think PR. We're really looking to do something in the public relations and comm space,
Well,
um, and data technology, information security.
amazing. You heard it here, folks. Come hit up Brennan. He's got
Do
openings.
it.
Amazing.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I got two more quick ones for you. Is there a CEO or another entrepreneur that you're following or you really admire?
I admire Levels, just because he's like the ultimate like builder. I also uh, I love Mark Cuban. I think he's quite the entrepreneur and like epic billionaire guy. You've got to respect Elon Musk and the supply chains and the hardware that he builds. Um, Palmer Luckey, I think what he's done with Anduril and Oculus is epic. Um, and those are both things that it's like who would pick up and be like, I'm gonna go build a defense prime and actually kick ass at it. I think that's incredible. And then yeah, like a lot of I probably like since we're in the AI space too, I'll also say like Zuck. And I know like he's getting like beat up in these moments right now with different things, but with like Llama, but I would never bet against Zuck in my life. And I think he's just for being able to like run the company the way he runs it. He runs it like a SEAL team. And I think it's really hard to compete with him. And so I always have a lot of respect there. So yeah.
Shout out to Zuck. Plus, he's a jujitsu guy now, so he's a fellow brother.
Yeah. I have bad knees, so I'm not allowed to jujitsu. But,
Yeah, that is why I stopped a few years ago. I'm a yoga guy now, so
I just weightlift a ton.
yeah,
That's my move.
nice. Okay, and lastly, I know you mentioned Rotary, and
Yeah.
in particular, we like to give shout outs to charitable organizations. Can you talk a little bit about the work you did with Rotary.
Yeah, so it actually is something that got me into tech. When I was in banking, I went to India, and with Rotary, and then I think the Gates Foundation, we were part of the Polio Plus initiative, which is a vaccine initiative to eradicate polio, which they did in India, which is incredible. And so I want to just give a big shout out to them, as well as like the Gates Foundation and Doctors Within Borders,
Yeah.
because I think going out and providing medical benefits in different communities is such a important thing. And it also, just directly translates to lives and GDP, because we're all connected. Like you can get on a plane and fly from anywhere anymore. And like, don't you want those people having healthcare and having safety? And, like we're all like part of one world. And I think going out and doing things like that's really important. So that's like my shout out.
Totally agree. Polio's an interesting one too, because it was kind of like as the world became cleaner and more sanitized, that's when the polio comes out, because they're not exposed to like these viruses. So you have that big outbreak. And of course, polio was knocked down to a 99.9% degree in the States. But it's worth mentioning because there's a lot of like, vaccine skepticism now, and maybe for rightful means. I mean, I don't know everything, but you can definitely point to like polio and certain vaccines historically that have been such a net positive on planet Earth. It's undeniable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a super stable vaccine that's been around, I think, since the 40s or 50s. And then the cool thing about the polio vaccine, and you have to fact check me on here, but I believe the creator gave it away.
I think you're right.
And so rather than monetizing it, they gave it away.
Yeah.
And so I think that like, we can hold our medical system to account, but I think on and on, there's a lot of things out there that make the world a better place. And for me, the polio vaccine and eradicating polio and the work they're doing to eradicate malaria and these other things like make a lot of difference in people's lives. And so, like that's something I think these organizations need a lot of support.
Totally agree. And just, as far as AI goes, this is probably going to be the biggest net positive. Is I believe the insulin, the creator of insulin, also gave it away for free before it was, appropriated the patent. But, what we're going to see is a lot more medications, a lot more opportunities. With that comes, a certain amount of compliance, and we want to make sure it's all checked out. But I'm really excited for like all those health benefits as well. Brennan, this has been awesome. I appreciate it. It's infinityconstellation.com is the website. Where can people connect with you best online?
I'm on Twitter, Brennan Pothetes. Like you can find me. I'm working on a new handle, so I won't shout that out till it gets confirmed. But you can, and then you can see all my stuff on notanotherpodcast.co, and get connect with me on infinityconstellation.com. So
notanotherpodcast.co. Fantastic show. I'm super enjoying it. It's a new podcast too, so everyone can kind of get in and have some new listening of a great new show. Brennan, this has been awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Coffee is great, but coffee won't prep your meetings for you. It'll just keep you awake while you panic, hastily scrolling through LinkedIn at 6:59 a.m. Ambient, however, will prep your meetings. Each morning you get a founder-tuned briefing sourced overnight from your calendar, your meeting history, and the web. It's like walking into every call with a cheat sheet that you didn't have to write. No more scrambling, no more guessing, just context, confidence, and focus. And if you're raising money, Ambient investor dossiers are an absolute must-have. You'll know the investor's portfolio, their interests, and their latest moves before you even step into the room. You'll even get a heads up on red flags. Think of it as the caffeine upgrade that your calendar actually needs. Prep while you sleep, perform while you're awake. Sign up for free at ambient.us. Go check it out at ambient.us. That's ambient.us. This episode is brought to you by Moburst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. Moburst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, Moburst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At Moburst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, Moburst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result? Marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At Moburst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to Moburst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. Hey founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.